Hey, Bryan Coombes here. I want to give you my top 10 checklist items for buying an acreage property. This is a little list that I put together that I text or email clients so they have it on their phone if possible, and they can kind of go through it and just make sure they're on the right track regarding all the things they should be thinking about. So we'll start with the obvious. Number one is septic fields. So obviously you're not on city sewer, you're going to be on a septic system. How old is that septic system? If it's 30 or 40 years old, it could be nearing the end of its lifespan, so you might need to budget for a new field. They can last a lot longer than that, but you just never know. Septic systems can be expensive. The other thing is, are you going to want to get a septic field inspector in there to take a look at that field, make sure it's working right before purchasing? Always a good idea if you can do it. The other thing is, while the owner is there, get that owner to mark the location of that septic tank before he's gone or she's gone. Because when they're gone, that septic tank cover is under the ground somewhere, and sometimes it's a real bugger to try to find. You got to go around with a steel pole to try to find the tank cover. The next thing is the water system. So obviously you're not going to be on city water in a lot of cases. So where is the well? How deep does that well go? Is there a well log when it was drilled? Is that well on the BC well registry? Can it be looked up? Is there data for flow rate on that well? These are all things that I try to look into as a realtor working for a client, but it's always, it's good to be aware of those things. Number three is property lines. Does the property line, does the fencing reflect the actual property line of the property? A lot of times the fencing doesn't, so it's important to kind of know that, and you might want to budget for a survey of that land, especially if you plan on doing any kind of development or building a barn or anything like that. You want to know where your property lines are. In fact, it'll be a requirement from the township that you do know. Zoning. What is a zoning designation? That's number 4. So the zoning designation is going to tell you a lot about what the rules are for that type of property and what you can do with it, what you can build on it, how big you can build, what type of accessory buildings you can build, how big they can be. Can you put a secondary residence on that property? That's all going to be in the zoning, so you're going to want to know that. Number 5 is smell. Are you in proximity to any industrial farming? Like dairy, chickens, pigs, call it swine farm, mushrooms, that kind of stuff. Like that, if you're downwind from that can be really smelly. Be like an ammonia smell or a rotten egg smell. You don't want that. Let's see, what's number 6? Number 6 is drainage. Drainage, the best place to get drainage information is from the current owner. I always try to get the buyer and the seller together at some point before they part ways, to kind of get the seller to point out where the wet spots are, if any, are on the land. Where does water tend to pool on that land? That's helpful to know in the event that one day the buyer might want to build a barn or put in a paddock or whatever, and if that area is prone to flooding, you want to kind of know that. Power upgrades. So generally at in an acreage, you've got power at a power pole at the foot of the driveway, and then you've got poles that run down the driveway to the house. What are the condition of those poles? It's going to be your responsibility to fix those poles if they're leaning over or rotten. And is there sufficient power at the street to service your needs? Like, are you going to get a hot tub? Are you going to do any welding in your shop, or anything that's going to require maybe a 200 amp service? You might want to know that and budget for that also, your power upgrades. The next, number 8, is title search. Kind of an obvious one, but your title search in particular, you want to pay attention to any easements or rights of way on the property. Do you owe any responsibility to a neighboring property for providing access to their property via a roadway? Or are you obligated to provide water from your well to a neighboring property? I've seen that before. That kind of stuff you want to know about before you sign on the dotted line. Number 9 is township and city hall homework. I always recommend to buyers to go to City Hall, talk to somebody at the desk, tell them that you're buying the place, and just have a conversation with them about what you plan on doing with that property, so they can inform you about the viability of it and what hiccups you might run into regarding your plan. So I always do that for buyers. I always go into the township or city and check with the people at the front desk there. But I can't answer or ask the questions that you're going to ask long term. So it's always a good idea for you to do that yourself as well. And the last one is land clearing. This is something that kind of gets forgotten quite a bit, but like, you know, if you've got 5 acres and a big chunk of it has got you know, a bunch of old tree stumps or blackberry bushes or whatever, you know, you're going to want to budget for having land clearing done, so it's all kind of looked after. Or you might want to get your own machine, maybe a little backhoe or a tractor, so you might want to budget for that as well, depending on what your plans are for the property. I think I got it all. That's pretty much it. Realtors, I know you're there watching as well. I know you know, if I missed something, just let me know, write it in the comments. But I'm pretty sure I got all the big stuff, but you never know. And if you're looking to buy an acreage at any point, feel free to reach out to me anytime, no obligation. I'll make sure that you're looked after, and we'll take it step by step, especially if it's your first acreage. All right, that's it for me. Thanks for watching.